Hi there. In this screencast, I'm going to build an iPhone application with MonoTouch. I'm going to show some data in a UITableView, and then I'm going to delete some cells from that UITableView. First thing I'm going to do is open up a new solution in MonoDevelop. Now, the data in my table is going to be a list of employees, so I'm going to call this employees example. Next, I'm going to open up main-window.zib in Interface Builder. Now, the actual window that the application is going to be running in is here, and I don't need to make any changes to that, so I'm going to close it. Next thing I'm going to do is hit Objects, find a UINavigationController, and drop that inside here. The next thing I'm going to do is create an outlet for this navigation controller. So I make sure that App Delegate is selected, I click Outlets, and I create a new one called Navigation Controller. Once that the outlet's created, I need to actually connect it. So I select App Delegate here, and I connect it like so. I can see it's connected because I can hover over here, and I can see over here it highlights it. Once I've done that, inside my navigation controller I've just got an empty view controller. I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to put in a table view controller. Now the table view controller is going to be connected to a class, and I'm going to call that class employees table view controller. Now I've not created that class yet, so I'm going to save, quit, and then create the class. But just before I do that, I'm going to make sure that my navigation controller is actually added when the program starts loading. Window.addSubview navigationcontroller.view. Now just by chance this was already commented out. The next thing I do is create that class that we just mentioned in Interface Builder. New file, empty class, employees table view controller. Now I've got a template installed on my machine, so I can delete all that code and type UITVC and hit tab, and then my template comes into play, and I replace the namespace I replace the class name, the title, let's just say employees here, and a private variable name, that's fine already. Okay, now I'm going to go to the top of this class here. I'm going to create a list of strings. This is where I'm going to put the employees. Now I'm going to initialize that with some fake employees when the view successfully loaded. Okay, I've got some data in my list now, but at the moment nothing's telling my table to put that data inside the table. So to do that, I'm going to change two things. Here in my data source, rows in section, this says how many rows I've got in my table. Well, I've got tvc.employees.count. Now TVC is the local table view, employees table view controller here. Employees is the list we've just created. Finally, the last thing we need to do here is put the name of an employee in a cell. So in the getCell method, this is called each time a cell is added to the table at this index. So I'm going to say cell.textLabel.text equals tvc.employees.element@indexPath.row. Okay, now at this point I can build and run. We should see our iPhone application launching and showing 3 employees in a table. Here we go. Now I'm going to quit that and go back to the code. I want the ability to delete some of those employees. So I'm going to go back to the top of the class here, and I'm going to create a UI bar button item. It's going to be called edit button. Create another one called done button. Now in the constructor here, I'm going to initialize those buttons. Edit button equals new UI bar button item. Now there's a constructor here where you pass in a UI bar button system item. That's interesting because there's some of the common buttons such as edit, done, they're already there for us. So UI bar button system item dot edit for our edit button, and the same thing for our done button. Now I need to add some code to those buttons. Just before I do that, I'm going to actually add the edit button to my navigation controller. So the the current navigation item dot right bar button item equals the edit button. Now when those buttons are clicked, we need some code to run, which is going to be done here. I'm going to use anonymous delegate syntax here. I'm going to set the editing mode of the table to true, and I'm also going to say navigation item dot right bar button item. I'm going to switch that now to the done button. I'm going to do a similar thing here for the done when the done button is clicked. Again, I'm going to set editing to false. I'm going to say navigation item dot right bar button item equals when the done button is clicked, it needs to be the edit button again. Okay, that's all well and good, but nothing's going to actually happen when you click delete because we've not told it to delete anything. So in the data source here, I'm going to override a method. It's called commit editing style. One of the parameters here is the editing style itself. So we want to say if editing style is the delete, because there are other ones, we're only interested in delete here, then we need to do 2 things. We need to say we need to get rid of the employee in our list. So employees, this is the list we created, remove at index path. This is the index path.row is where the user clicked, and we also need to delete it from the table. So TableView delete rows. Here it wants an array of index paths. Let's just create an array on the fly, pass in our index path, and it also wants a UITableView row animation. Let's give it the fade animation. Okay, we're good to go. Now if we build and run, we should see the same as before, but we can go in and out of edit mode with the buttons. We'll also be able to delete items and also swipe to delete. We can go in and out of edit mode like this. You can delete an item here, and we get swipe to delete simply by overriding commit editing style. I hope you've liked this screencast. There'll be more coming soon.